Hello and welcome to Rathod Science Academy. Today in this session we are going to see current affairs of 19th November 2025. So let's get started with our discussion. Before getting started, I want to make a small announcement. We in our academy we are going to launch new anthropology batch from 25th of this November, guys. And the key features of this course are the duration of this course is 4 months and daily you will be having 2.5 hours of classes, that too in the evening time only, and every day you have answering practice and weekly you will be having weekly test, and we do provide material for your paper 1 and as well as paper 2 and even previous years questions topic wise and as well as blueprint. So if you have any queries regarding this course, you can contact us on this number 8074765513. And even if you directly want to meet me, you can come to academy, which is located in Ashok Nagar, exactly above Big Vikas Book Center, second and third floor, guys. Okay, now let us see the topics of the day. So there are many topics that we are going to discuss in our today's class. First topic is Supreme Court recalls verdict rejecting green clearances. So this article, which is mainly talking about overturning of Supreme Court judgment, that is about ex post facto clearances. So this article is very important from your polity and even GS paper 3 under environment and ecology as well. Our next topic is Manipur governor reviews fencing along Myanmar border. So this article is talking about India-Myanmar border issue. So this topic is important from GS paper to under international relations. Our next topic is 130 Sri Lankan refugees in Tamil Nadu camps can apply for Indian passport, says one survey. So one survey which had been done in this Sri Lankan refugee camps, that says that around 130 Sri Lankan refugees, they are going to apply for Indian passport. So this article is about advancement in citizenship of India, guys. This topic is important from GS paper to under IR and even from GS paper to under polity point of view. Our next topic is on Bangladesh extradition request for Hasina. New Delhi has several options it can exercise. As you all know that in yesterday's class we discussed in detail about who is this Sheikh Hasina and what is the verdict of International Crimes Tribunal, and she is ex Prime Minister of Bangladesh. She is sentenced to death by International Crimes Tribunal, and actually she is residing in India. So now what are the options which are present with India regarding the Sheikh Hasina? So we have to see those options, guys, and this topic is important from international relations from GS paper 2. Our next topic is over 2 crore people removed from NFSA list for free grains. So this article is talking about one important act, that is National Food Security Act. So here we have to see what is that. And this topic is important from GS paper to under governance. Our next topic is unpacking the global happiness rankings. So recently in 2025, there is Global Happiness Index released. So we are going to see that what is a global happiness index and India's ranking, why India is behind. And this article is important from your governance from GS paper 2, and even we can cover this topic under international relations from GS paper 2 once again. Our next topic is what can local bodies expect from 16th Finance Commission. So here we are going to have the 16th Finance Commission soon. So in this context, what local bodies can expect. So this topic is very important from your GS paper 2 under polity. So these all are the topics that we are going to discuss in this class in detail. Online students, please don't skip this video. Please do watch till end so that you'll be getting lots of insights regarding how the question can be formed in the prelims and as well as mains and even interview, and how your approach should be. Everything that you'll be getting lots of insights. And if you're following our current affairs, please do follow every day so that there will be no missing of any article, so that you'll be keeping updated with current affairs. Okay, see this title, guys. Supreme Court recalls verdict rejecting green clearances. If you want to understand this article, you have to go back to May 2025. Okay, let us see what this article is about. This article is talking about green clearances. Let us see this infographic now. Supreme Court majority verdict and dissenting voice focus on different aspects of retrospective environment clearance. So this article is talking about retrospective environment clearance. We already discussed about this topic in month of May, guys. In May and August months in 2025, we discussed about this article. Why? Because in May, August, Supreme Court gave judgment regarding this retrospective environment clearance. In month of May and August, what Supreme Court said is, so we should not give this retrospective environment clearance. It is according to the violation of different acts of our environment. And now again, whatever the Supreme Court judgment gave in this May August month of 2025, again now Supreme Court went for review of that judgment, and in this present judgment it overturned this judgment given in month of May August 2025. In earlier judgment, Supreme Court said that we should not go for giving of retrospective clearance, but now Supreme Court gave green signal for this retrospective clearance. So because of this article is very important. So where exactly you can see this article is, first of all, you have to know about what is this retrospective clearance or ex post facto clearance. It is also called as ex post facto clearance, environment clearance. Okay, other name of retrospective clearance is ex post facto clearance. That is the first important thing that you have to remember. And second one is, what is this review of Supreme Court judgment? Whether Supreme Court has the power to review its judgment or not, whether it can change its judgment which is given earlier or not. So that thing that you have to see, guys. These two are very important means concepts from your UPSC point of view, guys. Okay, now let us see this article in detail. If you see the context of this article, it is saying that Supreme Court of India now sat for 3 judge bench. That is, 3 judges are there in this bench, and now they gave the judgment. The judgment is 2:1 majority verdict. That means 2 said yes and 1 said no. So this kind of majority is called as 2:1 majority verdict, and recalled its own landmark judgment from May 16, 2025 in the famous case. The name of that case you have to make a note is Vanashakti versus Union of India 2025. In this Vanashakti versus Union of India 2025 case, Supreme Court gave a landmark judgment in month of May. In that judgment, Supreme Court banned granting of retrospective, that is ex post facto environment clearance. But now again, Supreme Court overturned this judgment given by Supreme Court itself in this judgment now. Supreme Court said that no, we can go for giving of this ex post facto clearances or retrospective clearance now. So this is the context why it is in news. If you say what is this retrospective clearance, is nothing but retrospective clearance is also called as ex post facto environment clearance, means giving environmental approval to a project after it has already started construction or operations. So here, if you see about this environment clearance concept, if you are starting any project, for example roadways or railways or any developmental activities or any giving of lease for any mining companies or any blasting, whatever it may be, before starting that project we have to take environment clearance. So who will be giving this environment clearance? We have Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change will be giving clearances. So how this ministry will give clearances? For example, if there is any one person who wants to start any project, so he has to apply for the permission from this Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. And now this Ministry of Environment, what it will do is, it will conduct environment impact assessment. That is nothing but because of this project, how it is going to impact environment. So based on that studies, now this ministry will give environment clearance. So this is the normal process. Before starting of any project or anything itself, we have to take this environment clearance. But what is this post facto or retrospective environment clearance says that I started this project, I started operations. After starting of project, now I'll apply for this environment clearance. So this concept is called as retrospective environment clearance. So earlier Supreme Court judgment, it said that no, how will you start a project without this environment clearance? It is against Environment Protection Act. So we are not going to promote this retrospective environment clearance. This was a stand of Supreme Court in the month of May. But now, in the month of September, this everything had been changed, and Supreme Court now gave permission for this retrospective environment clearance. Clear? Okay, here you have to see about what is the background of this issue, what is the background of this case. If you see about this environment impact assessment notification of 2006, which mainly came under this Environment Protection Act of 1986. So this notification which mainly says that before starting of any project, we need to take environmental clearance for any construction activity, for any mining or any industries, any development project. You have to go for environment clearance prior only. Who says this? Environment Impact Assessment Notification of 2006. And second one is we have even environmental amnesty notification. We came up in year 2017. So this also said that we are going to introduce one-time window, that is from March to September 2017. It mainly allows the violators who had commenced with the projects without EC, they can apply for retrospective clearance. In 2006, what are the rules are says that we have to go for taking of environmental clearance before only. But in 2017, environmental amnesty notification said that we are going to open a window. So if anyone who started the project, if they didn't took this environment clearance, now they can apply for environment clearance. That means this notification of 2017 opened a window for retrospective clearance in our country. Before that, no, only prior environment clearance was there. But now after this notification, it opened doors and windows for this retrospective clearance. And later on, 2021 Office Memorandum, which mainly issued by Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, established standard operating procedure. It mainly is focusing on handling of violation cases which mainly effectively continued the regime of ex post facto approvals. So because of this, this case says that yes, already notification came up in 2017, which is allowing a window for this ex post facto clearances. Not only that, in that 2021 also, we have this continuation of this regime of retrospective clearance, but how Supreme Court gave the judgment regarding this banning of retrospective, because already we have rules and regulations. So whenever Supreme Court is giving any judgment, it has to give judgment based on already existing law. So we have already existing rules in as well as Office of Memorandum, which says about yes, we can continue this ex post facto clearances. So based on this, again, it overturned its own judgment case. That is a thing. Okay, if you are talking about this policy frameworks in India regarding the provisions of giving clearances for the projects, first one is Environment Impact Notification 2006, and we have Environment Protection Act, we have National Green Tribunal Act, we have Forest Conservation Act. If in case Supreme Court has to give any judgment regarding environment, it has to go through all these acts in our country, and it has to give judgment according to that case. Regarding this ex post facto clearance, it is there in 2017 notification, 2021 office. Clear? Okay, now let us see the next article, see the image case. So you can see image of a fencing. On this fencing, even people are using this fencing for drying of their clothes, that you can see here. It is a border between India and Myanmar. Okay, title says that Manipur governor reviews fencing along Myanmar border. So this article is talking about Manipur state governor is reviewing fencing along this Myanmar border. So this article is very important from India-Myanmar relations. From which subject we can say this? From GS paper 2 under international relations. If there are any international relations related news, you have to see first of all map. Are we sharing directly boundary with Myanmar? Yes. Here we have to see which are our Indian states sharing boundary with Myanmar. First important thing. And next one here is, yes, whenever we are sharing direct boundary, you have to see how we are maintaining that border. Are we having any border disputes or not? India-Myanmar border is very special. Why? Because we have free movement regime between India and Myanmar. So what is free movement regime? Across this border till 16 kilometers, the people of this Myanmar and people of India can cross borders without any requirement of visa. Why? Because for trade, for healthcare facilities, for education, and for the development of that region, yes, we had this free movement regime. So if you say the recent current affairs between India and Myanmar, India is stopping this free movement regime. Why? Because of our concerns. Whenever we are having this free borders, there is a threat of drug trafficking, arms trafficking, smuggling of goods, and even counterfeit currency. That is nothing but fake currency movement between India and Myanmar. And not only that, insurgency kind of things will also happen in this northeastern region. So because of all those security reasons, recently we cancelled that free movement regime. So if you're cancelled, that means we have to tighten our border and we have to build a strong fence between India and Myanmar. So that is a work which is reviewed by now Manipur governor now, guys. Clear? Okay, now let us see this article clearly. Manipur governor chaired a high-level review meeting in Impal to access the progress of ongoing fencing project along this Indo-Myanmar border. And here Manipur is sharing around 398 kilometers of border with Manipur, across which they are going for fully fencing across this border. And estimated cost of this border between India and Myanmar only in this Manipur stretch is around 30,000 to 31,000 crore rupees. Okay, now let us see about this India-Myanmar border. India-Myanmar border is characterized by rugged terrain, and this region is having Himalayas, extension of Himalayas. We can say that are called as Purvanchal. Okay, if you see about this Himalayas in India, so here we have Myanmar, right? We have Trans Himalayas, Greater Himalayas, Lesser Himalayas, and Outer Himalayas. So Himalayas, they continued as Purvanchal in this northeastern part. So because of this, here in this region, we have rugged terrain and as well as we have lush green forest areas. So because of this hills and valley regions, these areas are mostly inhabited by wide range of tribal people in India. Okay, if you see about this India-Myanmar border, it is having rugged terrain, dense forest and as well as riverine crossings. And even this region is well known for illicit drug trafficking, guys, illicit activities like drug trafficking, because India is located between Golden Triangle and Golden Crescent. Do you know this Golden Triangle and Golden Crescent areas? Okay, if you see location of India, so here we have India. So here this part we have Golden Triangle. Here in this West Asian part we have Golden Crescent. So these are the areas which mainly produce opium. For example, Afghanistan, it is very much famous for opium production. And even here if you see this part also, it's very famous for this opium only. Just a minute, I'll show exactly. Okay, can you see this image? Is that much? It is not that much clear, I guess. My images are not that much clear. Okay, at least can you see this image? So someone drawn this in the Google. So here this is the location of India, guys. You know this is India. And here we have Golden Crescent. Golden Crescent is the area where very high production of this illicit drugs happens, majorly opium. we have countries like Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Iran. So these are the three important countries are the part of this Golden Crescent which mainly produce this opium. And here, if you see towards this northeastern part of India, we have this Golden Triangle. So in this Golden Triangle, we have Myanmar, we have Laos, and we have Thailand. So these are the countries which mainly produce this illicit drugs. So what happens because of this geography of India, it is very much near to this Golden Crescent and as well as Golden Triangle. To say clearly, India is sandwiched between this Golden Crescent and Golden Triangle. So because of this, what happened? There is a threat of getting this drugs in this Indo-Pakistan border and even from this India-Myanmar border as well. So because of this, you can see the reports, majorly most of the youth from this Punjab and Haryana, they are drug addicts because of this Golden Crescent. Okay. And next one here is arms smuggling, human trafficking, and as well as insurgent infiltration can also happen across this border. And government came up with this free movement regime in year 2018, guys. So what is this free movement regime? So government will allow the border residents of India as well as this Myanmar to go freely, free movement without any requirement of visa for 16 kilometers. What is the reason why we came up with this agreement? The reason here is improve the local inhabitants, their life, their standard of living, and to provide them basic amenities. And next one is to boost the local trade and business activities and to maintain proper people to people ties, and across this border the people will be sharing common culture to protect the culture and to preserve the culture. Yes, we came up with this, but what is happening here? It is increasing security threats for India. So because of this, we cancel that free movement regime now. Clear? Say this article, guys. 130 Sri Lankan refugees in Tamil Nadu camps can apply for Indian passport, say survey. So if you want to understand about this article, you have to go back to civil war in Sri Lanka, guys. So what happened? Civil war in Sri Lanka happened. So because of this civil war, Sri Lankan Tamilians, they came out of the Sri Lanka and entered into India. So which is the nearest state for Sri Lanka? Tamil Nadu. So they entered into Tamil Nadu. Not only Tamil Nadu, from Tamil Nadu they reached different parts of our country, guys. And for that, what happened at that time? Government of India established Sri Lankan refugee camps. In that camps, these people are staying. And recently, what happened? Government of India came up with Citizenship Amendment Act of 2019. Okay, I will draw everything on the map so that you will be having clear-cut understanding of what is this issue. So here we have this island, Sri Lanka. So in Sri Lanka, civil war happened. And if you want to know the exact timeline when this civil war happened, that is around 1983 to 2009. From 1983 to 2009, this was a time where the civil war happened in Sri Lanka. From there, this Sri Lankan Tamils, they influx into our Tamil Nadu state. And not only that, they fled to different parts of our country. To protect their rights, our government established certain refugee camps in Tamil Nadu and they started staying in these camps. So this is a story till 2009. What happened in this 2019? Our government came up with this Citizenship Amendment Act. So in this Citizenship Amendment Act, what it said? People who came from this Bangladesh, Pakistan, Afghanistan, 6 minority communities. Who are those 6 minority communities? We have Jains, Buddhists, Parsis, Christians. Okay, so 6 communities who are minorities in these regions, if they came to India before 2014, we are going to give citizenship in India. So in that Citizenship Amendment Act, Government of India did not added these people, guys. Who are these people? Sri Lankan Tamilians. And they started influxing into India from 1983 onwards. That means it was more than 45 years they are staying in India. but still they have the status of refugees. They do not have any citizenship in India. And even whenever they are filing for anything, so government of India will be refusing their request. So because of this, these people are persecuted minority refugees in our country. Now there is one good news for these people. So recently we did one survey in that camps of the Sri Lankan Tamilians, and around 130 people they are going to get this Indian passport, guys. So this is about this issue. Okay, now let us say this article clearly. An official survey conducted by Tamil Nadu Commissionerate of Rehabilitation Welfare of non-resident Tamils. So this survey revealed that around 130 Sri Lankan Tamilian refugees who are residing in these rehabilitation camps across the states, they are eligible to apply for Indian passports. If they apply, they'll get this Indian passports, guys. So this eligibility stems from their recognition as Indian citizens under this Citizenship Amendment Act of Citizenship Act of 1955, primarily due to birth in India. That means the people who fled, who born in this Sri Lanka, who fled into India, they are not going to get citizenship. But after once they enter into India, if they are giving birth to their children in India, they are going to get this citizenship rights under the Citizenship Act, and now they are eligible to get passports from India, guys. Again, yeah, they are not born in India, they are from Sri Lanka. Yeah, that is a problem with this Citizenship Amendment Act. So lots of times the issues are going on in India. Why we are discriminating based on this religion? In our constitution, we have fundamental rights. What are those? There should be no discrimination based on language, religion, caste, race, sex. But here we are doing discrimination, right? So here debates are going on regarding the Citizenship Amendment Act of 2019, guys. But according to a Citizenship Act of 1955, if you're born in India, then you will be getting Indian citizenship. So here the people who were born to this, people who fled from Sri Lanka from this 1983 to 2009, so they are going to get this rights under the Citizenship Act of 1955. That means you will be getting question regarding the Citizenship Amendment Act and as well as Citizenship Act of 1955, which is a direct topic in your polity. Okay, if you say about the Sri Lankan Tamilian refugees, it was began during this 1983 till 2009 in civil war. So where these ethnic Tamils, they faced persecution by the Sri Lankan state and some militant groups like LTTE, guys. And around 8 lakh people fled across the Spark Strait with Tamil Nadu. And actually those people, they share common linguistic and as well as cultural ties. Why the Sri Lankan people and Indian Tamils, they are having same ties during this British period. These Britishers took us Tamils in Tamil Nadu to Sri Lanka to work in their plantations. So because of this, they have similar culture and as well as people ties. And this one is India under international obligations. At that time, Government of India established 105 rehabilitation camps in districts like Tirunelveli, Ramanathapuram and Vellore, which is housing refugees under care and maintenance. And now, approximately 90,603 Sri Lankan refugees resides in these camps. Apart from that, they went to other states also. And even in Odisha also, we can see the Sri Lankan Tamilian population case. Okay. Now let us see next article. Title says on Bangladesh extradition request for Hasina. New Delhi has several options it can exercise. And this topic is also very important. It is from your India-Bangladesh relations. In yesterday's class, we discussed about who is the Sheikh Hasina and what is the present verdict of ICT and why she had this sentence of hanged to death. Okay, now actually you know that she is residing in India. In yesterday's story, we discussed that she is in India. And now here Bangladesh government requested government of India to send back that Hasina so that we can implement sentence. We can hang her to death. So what are the options that are present in India? We have to see that. So first option is we can reject the request without proceeding to trial because we have certain treaties we had signed. What is a treaty? Universal Declaration of Human Rights. We can use this Article 14 of Universal Declaration of Human Rights and we can simply reject the request of this government of Bangladesh. And second one is we can proceed with extradition proceedings. Like we can go for full trial in India itself. We can hold magisterial inquiry extradition trial under this act as well. And second one is we can seek assurance and negotiate conditions. Like government of India can respond conditionally with this government of Bangladesh, and we have to demand that a guarantee like no death penalty or fair trial rights or tribunal recusal. So in this way we can go for back channel talks. And this one is we can prosecute Hasina domestically or offer asylum. We can invoke Article 7 so that we can refuse this requesting state, and we are not going to prosecute her to try her, and even we can try to provide this asylum as long as we can. And next one is we can delay or we can stall the process. We can cite some incomplete documentation, inefficient ICT evidences, so that we can pause this hang to death sentence of Sheikh Hasina. So these are the 5 important choices which are present before India. Okay, now let us see the next article, guys. See the title. Over 2 crore people removed from NFSA list for free grains. So what is this article talking about? What is the keyword? Keyword is National Food Security Act. NFSA. National Food Security Act. So here you have to see what is the background of this act. Our government of India came up with this National Food Security Act to provide food security for the poor people. As you all know that India is the largest populous country in the world, and many people they are living under below poverty line, and there is no proper food security for them. So because of this, what happened? It is responsibility of government to ensure food security. So for that, government came up with this National Food Security Act. Under that, government is trying to provide subsidized food grains for people who are under this BPL, that is below poverty line categories, under the program called as PDS, Public Distribution System. And what happened is in 2019 we experienced a pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic. At that time, government implemented Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana. So under this program, government now providing completely free food grains of wheat or rice based on the location. In south, government will be providing rice. In north, government will be providing wheat. Okay, so this is about the background of this act. And now why it is in news? The present article says that around 2 crore people were removed under this National Security Act. Now you have to think, if suddenly government of India is removing 2 crore people, is that feasible? Can we ensure food security? And we have to think like what are the reasons why government came up with this removal of 2 crore people all of a sudden. And this topic is very important from your governance, guys. Okay, now let us see the context. Government has pruned, that is removed, around 2.25 crore ineligible beneficiaries of free monthly ration scheme in the past 4 or 5 months. From last 4 to 5 months, Government of India removed 2.25 crore names under that scheme. And government said that this program is focusing mainly on benefit to the right persons. We are going to target who are essentially required that food grains, not for all. So even you can see in your villages also, if you have experience of going to ration shop, some people very rich, they'll be having gold, everything, and even good bangla, building, everything. But even though they'll come to the ration shop and they will be getting this free food grains. Okay, so because of this, what is happening? It is violating this right of the people of food security case. So that is the reason which mainly said. So if you're talking about this act, National Food Security Act of 2030, which is an important act which is mainly focusing on food security from a welfare-based approach towards right-based approach in our country. And this program which mainly covers 75% of rural population and around 50% of urban population in India. And under this NFSA, government will be providing certain schemes like Antyodaya Anna Yojana. It covers poorest population who entitled to receive 35 kilos of food grains per family per month. Under this, National Food Security Act, the first important program is Antyodaya Anna Yojana. So here it is not about the persons, but a family. Government will be providing 35 kgs of food grains. And next one is we have priority households. Families included under this priority households, they are entitled to receive 5 kgs of food grains per person per month. So second one is priority households. Under this, if your family is having 5 members, each person will be getting 5 kgs of food grains. That means 5 into 5, 25 kgs of food grains that you will get under this priority households. And where they can get this food grains, they have to go for nearby fair price shop or ration shop, and they will be getting that food grains. Okay, and next one here is, in case of issuing ration card, it has been made mandatory for the eldest woman of that family aged 18 years or above to the head of the household. So here, if the family has to be eligible under this National Food Security Act, the elder woman should be more than 18 years, guys. That is who is the head of that family. Woman head should be more than 18 years. And this one is, this act makes special provision for the children in the age group of 6 months to 14 years, where they are provided with a nutritious food free of cost through wide network of ICDS. So if we have children of 6 to 14 years of age, they will be covered under this ICDS programs. And also from Anganwadi centers, they will be getting monthly like eggs and even food and even some kind of protein powder. And not only that, even they'll be getting chickies, and even they will be getting certain kinds of protein biscuits, chips like that. So those are like very nutritious. So they will be covered under this ICDS program, under this National Food Security Act. And say this article, guys, up unpacking the global happiness ranking, very, very important article. So this article is talking about World Happiness Report 2025. So please make a note. World Happiness Report 2025. And India's ranking is 118 out of 147. And Finland is the number 1. Okay, Finland is number 1. And India's rank is 118 out of 147. So recently we discussed about one ranking. India's position is 9th in that. What is that report? What is that report where India's rank is single digit? So if you take any other report for say, India's position is, we can count from last. We can count from last for sure. But for the first time, India's report is for the first time single digit. It was climate risk index. India is the 9th topmost country which is going to be impacted by this climate change. That we discussed recently, right? But almost other rankings, India's place will be for sure from last we can count. It will be like from last it will be 20 to 40 like that. So if you're talking about facts regarding this World Happiness Report 2025, it is an annual global report that ranks countries based on the life satisfaction and happiness levels of their citizens. And this report will reflect how people evaluate their quality of life by using statistical data and public perception. And who will release this report? Please make a note. This report is released by Wellbeing Research Center from Oxford University. And they'll be using 6 indicators to give these rankings. So those are, the first one is GDP per capita, healthy life expectancy, social support, freedom, generosity, perception of corruption. So these are the 6 major key indicators on which they'll give this ranking. And if you say about India's ranking and statistics, India's rank is 118 out of 147. And if you compare with the last rankings, India's ranking is somewhat improved better. And India's ranking is below Pakistan. This is one cause of concern. Pakistan ranking is 109, Nepal is 92, but India is 118. Again, we have to think where we are going beyond. Okay, so that is the thing. Yeah, say this article, guys. What can local bodies expect from 16th Finance Commission? So we are going to have the 16th Finance Commission soon in this 2026, guys. So because of this, here we have to see how it is going to function. So first of all, you have to know what is this Finance Commission. So which article of our constitution talks about it, and what are the roles and responsibilities, who are the members, how they are elected, what is their tenure. So you have to know the basics. So all these basics that you can study in your Lakshmikant in this chapter of constitutional bodies case. And apart from that, you have to see what is this gist given. So first let us see facts regarding this Finance Commission. Finance Commission is constituted by President of India, not Prime Minister, it is President of India. Under which article? Article 280, you have to remember this. And it will be constituted once in every 5 years, guys. And this Finance Commission, after doing everything, the study, it will submit the report to the President, and this President will submit that report or place this before Houses of Parliament, that is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. And if you see the composition, we have chairperson and we have other 4 members. All these members are again appointed by President of India. And what are the qualifications? So Constitution empowers the Parliament to establish the qualification. That means Constitution gave the full powers, authority for this Parliament only. And we have an important act called as Finance Commission Act of 1951. Under this, the chairman must have experience in public affairs, and 4 other members selected from those expertise as High Court judge, government finance, and as well as accounts, finance administration, or economics. So here you may get a question like this. Consider the following statements regarding this Finance Commission. They will give you the statement like, our Constitution of India provides the qualification of these members. No, it is not our Constitution. It is according to the Finance Commission Act. So in this way, UPSC will try to use certain things to trap the students. So you have to be very much careful. And the term here is specified by the President of India, and once they are appointed, so they are not eligible for reappointment, guys. Sorry, they are eligible for reappointment. Very important. Sometimes they will ask you a question like they are not eligible. So eligible, not eligible, again you have to make a clear-cut notes regarding this constitutional bodies and non-constitutional bodies in a table format, guys. Just you have to make the notes of all constitutional bodies and non-constitutional bodies in 2 to 3 A4 size paper, just in a box format, so that it will be very easy for recalling revision in your prelims times. And what are the functions? So this Finance Commission will advise President on distribution of tax proceeds between center and states. So whatever the tax is collected by the states, that will be divided between center and states. So who will decide how much percentage has to be dissolved? That is nothing but Finance Commission. And it will provide principles of grant in aids to states, and even it will provide measures related to state funds for panchayats and municipalities. And even if there are any other financial matters, they will be referred by the President. And if you are talking about the 16th Finance Commission of India, which is established under Article 280 of Constitution, which is mainly mandated to recommend distribution of tax revenues between center and states, and it is going to commence from 2026 April 1st, guys. So if you see about this article, what exactly it is saying. So let us see the gist of this article. As you all know that panchayats and municipalities, they were formed under 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendments. These panchayats and municipalities, which comes under local self-governing bodies, they are not part of our original constitution. Okay, so actually now state governments have the power to assign revenue handles and expenditure responsibilities to various municipalities and as well as panchayats. For every 5 years, at the states, we have States Finance Commission as well. At central level, we have Finance Commission under Article 280. At the state level also, we have States Finance Commission. So this States Finance Commission will make recommendations on state legislature. So far, recommendations of this 6 had been implemented, and now we are focusing on quantifying the resource requirements of local governments, and we are making certain ad hoc arrangements, and we are going to recommend lump sum grants. So actually we are going to have the 16th Finance Commission, right? So as it comes, so now from central government to state government, it will decide about this funds, tax sharing between central and state. And after once tax comes to this states, now states will be forming the States Finance Commission, and they will be deciding about how much funds they have to give to this panchayats and municipalities. That is the thing which mainly said here, guys. Okay. So just see this last paragraph. From only this one side, if you see this, you can understand about what is this fund sharing between the States Finance Commission and as well as panchayats and municipalities, guys. Okay, that's it. So these are the important topics that happened in our today's in the newspaper. By this I'm concluding. Thank you so much, guys, for watching, and please do like this class and share this class. and don't forget to subscribe to Rathod Science Academy, and you can follow us on our Telegram channel where we are providing notes of this class. And one more thing is, I want to ask you a suggestion. If you have any suggestions regarding how can we enhance this Hindu analysis, please let me know your suggestions in the comment box. And one more thing is, you can follow us on our Instagram page where we are providing mains question with model answer, prelims question with answer, and also current affairs in short. Don't forget, guys.